What's up, everyone? Welcome to this day in Phillies Sports History for February 25th, 2024. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Welcome to a Sunday edition of the podcast, a homecoming of sorts for one Doc Rivers. More on that in a minute, but first, if you're keeping score at home, I did go on a run yesterday and had my first sub 11-minute mile over the course of 3 miles that I've done in a long time, thanks in large part to the Philadelphia sports media. So I did take that energy and aggression I had yesterday and put it to good use. But that leads us into the recap of yesterday's question of the day. I said, is the Philadelphia sports media an issue in this city? 100% of you said yes. And that's not really a surprise to me because I think it's a larger sample size than what we're used to seeing. And as I said yesterday, I feel like it's the same callers. I feel like they're like I guess I don't know what, but like they stick together as a group and have each other's backs, which I get. But I think one final thought on this, I think to me it comes down to accountability. And they expect players to be accountable for their actions on the field, off the field, and giving them the sound bites and giving them the time, the interviews. But I don't think the media is held accountable. And when they are held and called out on their BS, whether it be from a player or whether it be by fans, it's always something else. It's, oh, the players, or, oh, you don't know, or, oh, you don't know. Like, just because you're in the media and you have those credentials does not mean you're the end-all be-all, because frankly, you're no better than me. I watch the games too. Just you get to sit in the box and have it catered. So that's my big takeaway is there needs to be accountability, because that's what they expect from the players and the teams, but not of themselves. And the fact that so many, like my Twitter line, you had the fans and basically the media, and not one person in the media said anything in the Philadelphia media. There was a couple national guys that said kudos for AJ. It's ridiculous that this is even still going on as a story, but that Philadelphia core group of media who all stuck together, and that's all I'm saying is be held accountable for your actions. That's what you expect. But as always, enough of that. I've given it way more airtime than what I anticipated today. But as always, thank you for participating in the question of the day. 267-495-8531. Get you in on the voice and text line. We will have another question of the day later in the show. Might have a bonus one too. Why not on a Sunday? But be sure to check out the latest Back to the Future with a PH. I sat down with Brian Michael of A League Apart. He is the producer of the exhibit. Goes in and talks about a timeline and the barrier breakers and just the legacy that the Negro Leagues have in the Philadelphia area. Be sure to check that out wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. Back to the Future with a PH. Check out aleagueapart.org, and there is an event Wednesday night that I'll be attending. Looking forward to that. Last I saw, there's still time to RSVP if you want to go down. Meet me out there. Hit me up while we're out there, but I'm looking forward to that. So aleagueapart.org, and then the interview with Brian is on Back to the Future, wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. To stay in the loop on those things, be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel, Jimbo_Mont. And while you're at it, buy some Girl Scout cookies from Ella. Time is running out. The clock is ticking. Everything you need is in the description. Just click that and go. And then finally, the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame ballot for the 2024 induction class is released. Go to phillyhall.org/fansvoice. While you're not going to be able to be a part of the official tally for the Hall of Fame induction class, you can get your voice heard. And if you fill out a ballot and it matches closest to the official induction class of this year, you win 2 free VIP tickets to the ceremony in November. The deadline for that is next week, March 8th. So get your ballot in, phillyhall.org/fansvoice. Get your voice heard and have a chance to win free tickets to the induction ceremony in November. All right, Flyers. Good. If there's a thing is a good loss, I think there's a lot of good things to take away from their 2-1 loss to the Rangers yesterday. First of all, I had a playoff atmosphere down at the Wells Fargo Center. And just they hung tough. The Rangers are in first place. They are a very good team. And the Flyers actually outshot the Rangers 40-24. Just could not get anything past Igor. But not a bad showing by them. They're back in action out in Pittsburgh today, or I guess this afternoon, take on the battle for PA with the Penguins. Looking for a win there. But again, if there's such a thing as a good loss, Eriksson played well. They were getting the shots. They just couldn't get them to fall. And no harm in that. I mean, Igor is a good goalie. So good if there's such a thing. Obviously, you don't want to lose. But if you're going to lose and play tough with the Rangers, I know the Flyers themselves are saying there's no moral victories. We wanted to win. And, of course, they have to say that. But taking a step back, like a 10,000-foot view, this is a good experience for them. Another big game. And they hung tough and showed that they can hang with the best teams in the East. So they're in action this afternoon against Pittsburgh. Villanova's bubble got a little bit smaller yesterday, although losing to the number one team in the country is not necessarily a bad thing. Losing 78-54 can be possibly classified as a bad thing, though. They're still the next four out. Still some time left that they can make a run in the Big East tournament. The Big East is always tough, so if they can win out and do a nice little showing in the Big East tournament, they might have a shot. But really, that Penn loss from the Big Five Classic is really hurting them right now because that's just a bad loss. Penn is a bad team this year, so the bubble is getting smaller for the Wildcats. Sixers in action today against the Bucks down at the Wells Fargo Center. Sunday matinee. Welcoming one Glenn Doc Rivers back to the Wells Fargo Center for the first time since being fired by the Sixers last spring. Hopefully Doc comes in and does Doc things. Sixers could really use the win. Really anxious to see how the reception should be down there. And he did some good things. I think the legacy of Doc Rivers' time, though, in Philly is one of frustration, particularly for me, because I feel like he was just all over the place. But that leads us to the bonus question of the day. We'll get to the official question of the day, but the bonus question of the day, you know what? No, let's make this the official question of the day. How should the crowd react to Doc Rivers today? Should they give him a nice little standing ovation because he won a lot of games here, just not in the playoffs when it counted? Or should they give him a Philly welcome and boo him? Let me know. 267-495-8531. That is today's question of the day. Is what should be the lasting legacy of Doc Rivers? Should he get booed today? Should he get cheered? Or should we just be indifferent to him because of the failed playoffs? Let me know what you're thinking. 267-495-8531. How should we remember our boy Glenn? All right, Temple women in action today in a battle of owls. I mentioned that they're currently in first place in the American, and another big game against the Rice Owls today. So we're going to hitch our wagon to the Temple women's basketball team and see if we can have somebody or a team to cheer for here in March Madness. The Phillies returned to action yesterday, and it was glorious. It was mostly the reserves and the backups. 14-13, they won against Toronto. Shades of the 93 World Series Game 5. I think that was Game 5, was the 15-14 game. But not good for the pitchers, I guess. None of the regulars traveled to this game. But my takeaway was Johan Rojas went 2 for 4, 3 RBIs, and a triple. Good start to his spring. If that's the kind of production you get from Johan Rojas, this team could be very dangerous. So not sure if he's going to play again today or not, but we should see more regulars when they play in Clearwater today against the Yankees. That game is actually on TV on Comcast Sportsnet. Looking forward to finally watching a baseball game for the first time since October of last year. Got to get that sour taste from the Phillies ending their season and the Eagles out of our mouths. But 14-13 win, shades of the 93 World Series against the Blue Jays. But the big story for me was Johan Rojas, 2 for 4, and looked good doing it. And let's just, if that, like I said, man, if you can get him, like I'm expecting and would be happy with 240, 250 as an average. If we can get him up in the 270s, 280s with that kind of, with his speed and getting triples, man, look out, Atlanta. Look out. But we'll have more on that tomorrow. And as we get closer to the season, we will do a Phillies preview episode. But they're in action today against the Yankees on TV. Cannot wait. Especially the weather's going to get warm. Cannot wait. Union opened their MLS season yesterday with a tie. They tied Chicago 2-2 down in Subaru Park. Very good battle for them. They were down by a goal twice in that game. Scored in, I think it was like, it was extra time, like the 93rd minute or something. So good way to start the season. They get the point. They are in action Tuesday in leg 2 of the CONCACAF Champions Cup against Saprissa. If they I think they're +1, so as long as they win by a goal, they should be able to advance or get the win. I'm not really sure, to be honest, how that works. But big game for them on Tuesday night in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. All right, we do have some Eagles news, and this is positive Eagles news. I'll start with the one thing I think I missed in my rant yesterday for the A.J. Brown interview was before all the shit hit the fan, he did say he's looking forward to working with Kellen Moore and just seeing what he's able to do. So it seems to be the consensus among a lot of people in the building that they're happy for Kellen Moore to be there, which is good. But the big news is, they also extended Albert O. So I guess they're going to give him a chance to compete to be the backup for Dallas Goedert. I don't necessarily hate it. I think he has potential. I would have loved to have seen him, but there's a reason why he got cut in the first place and why he didn't get playing. So hopefully an off-season, like a full off-season with the Eagles and Kellen Moore might just give him another weapon to use. But the salary cap numbers were released heading into, I think, mid-March, or around mid-March is when free agency will start. But the Eagles are projected to be $32 million under the cap, which is more than what was anticipated. And if you take out it's about $4 million that you need for your draft picks, that budget, they got about $28 million to spend, which is huge news for keeping Hassan Reddick. I know a lot of us wanted to have his contract restructured. So they have extra money than what I think was anticipated. So maybe they'll use that for him. Another thing that really wasn't talked about, and I could be wrong. There was 2 sites I was looking at, Sports Track and overthecap.com, and I was trying to kind of piece this together. But James Bradberry was one of the people that obviously just got old fast last year. But if he is cut post June 1st, I think if I read this right, they'll have a $4.3 million dead cap hit this year. And I think I want to say $3 million next year, which with the cap being more than what it was supposed to be. I'm looking more just for next year at this point. If they cut him post June 1st, it's only going to count $4.3 million, I think. And I could be wrong on this, but just from my own research, which depending now on who's available and what's out there for free agency, that could be something that the Eagles do. They could restructure. Lots of good things. And I think once they restructure some contracts and figure some things out, that $28 million they'll have after the rookie contracts will actually increase. So they will have some maneuverability. And that, if I did my research and math right, a $4.3 million dead cap hit for James Bradberry isn't that bad if they have a suitable replacement. But without knowing necessarily what Vic Fangio wants, we'll have to see how things go. But that leads to the bonus question of the day, which was originally going to be the question of the day, but I think I want to keep the question of the day surrounding Doc. Let's make this a Sixers day. But what should the Eagles do now that we know with the cap? We can start kind of envisioning and seeing what goes on. Should they re-sign their own guys? Like, should that be the primary focus? Is bringing Reddick back? Should they signing a running back, or do you think they're going to draft a running back, cornerback, linebacker? Let me know what you think the Eagles' priority should be with the cap versus the draft, because I think free agents and draft, like you have the free agents and then the draft to fill in some pieces. So let me know what you think the Eagles should do with their cap money. 267-495-8531. Get you into the voice and text line. But a pleasant surprise that the Eagles are right now $32 million under the cap. You take out rookie stuff, and then hopefully they do some restructuring. That could be up closer to $50 million maybe. So they're actually in good shape, and they have a lot of draft picks this year too. So things are looking good, hopefully, for a rebuild. We got the A.J. Brown cleanse. Let's just focus on Phillies and wait for free agency. But if you want to show your support for A.J. Brown in his fight against the Philadelphia sports media, get your Mega John hoodie that I had yesterday, pair it up with an Optimus Bryce shirt, and you're good to go. Go to phillygoat.com, check out their selection of Philly sports-based apparel. Get an Optimus Bryce and a Mega John. Why not? Pair it up. Don't forget about their St. Patty's Day stuff. Time's running out to get that delivered in time. Get the McGillans. You get the fans. Get them both. I'm telling you, I'm going to end up with probably 4 pair at least minimum of these shirts, and just kind of doing what I got to do. But go to phillygoat.com. Use the promo code Jim Montgomery for 10% off your order. That's phillygoat.com. Promo code Jim Montgomery. All right, today we're going to go back to 1972. And on this day in 1972, the Phillies and the Cardinals made a trade. The Phillies sent Rick Wise to St. Louis, and the Cardinals sent Steve Carlton to Philadelphia. And this was an interesting trade at the time because there's a lot of similarities between both teams, both players, I should say. So Rick Wise was coming off a 17-win season with the Phillies, a season which he threw a no-hitter. Also, we talked about this last summer, threw a no-hitter in a game that he hit 2 home runs in, something that I don't think we're ever going to see again. And he's done that a couple times in his career, hit 2 home runs in a game. But Rick Wise was frustrated with his situation in Philadelphia. He said, "It's hard to be consistent with a loser," was his direct quote I saw in the Daily News back around that time. He wanted a raise to $65,000, and the Phillies were like, I don't know. Meanwhile, Steve Carlton was coming off a 20-win season with St. Louis, but the Cardinals were better than the Phillies. I think they were in second place in 71 in the NL East. But he also, ironically, wanted a raise to $65,000. When the trade happened, the Phillies fans were not happy because Rick Wise was a fan favorite, one of the few bright spots on an absolutely horrendous team. Steve Carlton was not happy because he didn't want to leave St. Louis. He just wanted more money. So when it was all said and done and the smoke cleared, I'd have to say that this trade worked out fairly well for the Phillies. Just in the first season, 1972, Steve Carlton won 27 games, went 27-10 with a 1.97 ERA, 310 strikeouts, and a Cy Young Award, all for a Phillies team that won 59 games. So Steve Carlton won 27 of the Phillies' 59 games that year. It's just incredible, but brighter days were ahead. They won the World Series in 1980. Carlton became an all-time great. His number 32 is retired. He is a Hall of Famer, won 4 Cy Youngs, arguably one of the top 3 left-handed pitchers of all times. Lefty, this trade worked out well for the Phils. Meanwhile, for Rick Wise, he played 2 seasons in St. Louis, made 1 All-Star team, did throw another no-hitter in St. Louis, was traded to Boston where he played in the 1975 World Series, but never got back to really being a superstar. So this trade absolutely is won by the Phillies. And on this day, 1972, the Phillies traded Rick Wise to the Cardinals for Steve Carlton in a trade that really, I don't think the Phillies win the World Series without Steve Carlton. I know everybody talks about Schmidt's year and like Manny Trio, Bob Boone making clutch, and Pete Rose really putting them over the top. I don't think they win the World Series without Steve Carlton. So on this day, 1972, the groundwork was laid for that 1980 World Series championship for the Phillies. And finally today, our Philly Sports Black History Spotlight is on Ed Bolden. He was the founder of both the Hilldale Daisies as well as the Philadelphia Stars, led both teams to a championship. So he's a two-time Negro League, or I think it was the Colored World Series that both teams won. But basically, Ed Bolden, he saw baseball as a way to bring black society together. And he was very organized. So he made it an event. He figured out a way to capitalize and make the money on it by making it an event. It strengthened the black community, gave black people in the city something to do. He had things before the games, just was very organized. And at the time, the Negro Leagues were sort of very unorganized and all over the place. And Ed Bolden really helped to stabilize things like that. Basically picked up the legacy of Octavius Catto and really it just helped to take Negro League baseball in Philadelphia to the next level. He happens to also be, I don't want to give too much away because I want you to listen to the interview I did with Brian and check out A League Apart, but he is one of the 5 barrier breakers that is completely focused on in the exhibition. So go check out. But today's Philly Sports Black History Spotlight is on Ed Bolden. Check out my interview with Brian on Back to the Future with a PH, and then check out more about Ed Bolden and just his legacy and what he was able to do. Because I think the fact that he was very organized and that's huge. Like everybody was just, it was just a lot of barnstorming back then. He was able to really organize it and set up specific leagues and really made it like I said, an event for the entire family and just a place for the black community to come together and really turn it into more of a social event. So Ed Bolden is our Philly Sports Black History Spotlight of the day. On this day in 1972, the Phillies made a huge trade with the St. Louis Cardinals, bringing Steve Carlton to Philly for Rick Wise in a move that ultimately helped them win a World Series. Let me know what you're thinking about the Eagles. How should they spend their salary cap money? What makes sense? What should they focus on in the draft versus free agency? But the official question of the day, should we boo Doc Rivers or should we cheer him? Let me know. What is his legacy? Check out phillygoat.com. Fill out your ballot at phillyhall.org/fansvote. But let me know what you're thinking about Doc. It is all about welcoming Doc back. Big game for the Sixers. If they could somehow knock off Milwaukee, that will go a long way in instilling some confidence. Hopefully, they should have their full complement of players this afternoon. But big afternoon. We got the Phillies. We got Flyers, we got Sixers, lots of sports to watch today. Put your feet up, relax, and enjoy the games. This has been This Day in Philly Sports History. I'm Jim Montgomery. Go have yourselves a Sunday, and until next time, I'll see you when I see you.